Welcome back this month to the Gal for Kids show. We would like to thank our sponsors. First off, Mr. Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater, which is where we are here taping this morning, and Logan Street Signs and Banners. And I have the hardest time every single time saying that name. We may have to change that name. But I want to welcome you. We do this show on a monthly basis just to kind of get the word out into the community about what it is that we do here in Hamilton County and how we go about advocating for kids here in our county and how you can get involved and start helping us advocate for kids in our county. So if you were trying to figure out what kinds of things can I do in 2016 with my New Year's resolutions, what can I do to help kids in Hamilton County? If you have a passion to help kids who are in our court system through no fault of their own, usually they are in our court system a lot of times through abuse and neglect, and if you think that you might be a good advocate for kids, then you might want to get a hold of us. I think our information will be up on the screen, and I will also say it repeatedly through the show. But you want to get a hold of us so that you can come in and advocate with us. And so just a little bit, our program trains people from our community, which is why we come out here every month to teach you what it is we do. And we train you to be the voice of the child and to come into court and give recommendations to the judge as to what you believe would be the best interest for this child, what kind of services could be offered for the family and for the child, and how the child is doing. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then, again, it has to be a child that has come into our court system, all right? The program does not advocate for kids. This is not the right program to advocate for kids unless the children are involved in a court case somehow. So we wanted to talk a little bit, and before I forget, we have one of the attorneys with me today, Miss Addie Wood. She is one of the attorneys that would be helping you and representing you in our program if you decided to come in and be an advocate for abused and neglected children. So Addie and I are going to talk a little bit about today, first, about what types of cases we have seen come into our program. And I know we're not going to hit the exhaustive list, but we're going to give you some examples of some of the types of cases that we have had to deal with within our program. So you want to start?
I do. Drug use is one of the biggest issues that we have in our program.
Well, and let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay, let's do it.
Because we've seen a lot of newspaper articles, television shows, reports on the news. The drug use in our county is big, and it's here. And people don't think it's here, and they don't think that we have meth labs down the street or that we have people that are shooting up drugs in front of their children, people that are dying. They don't really think it's here in Hamilton County, but it is. It's here, and it's a huge problem within the child abuse system right now. So the Department of Child Services, the majority of the cases that they are seeing right now revolve around drug use by parents. So that's probably why that one was at the top of our list.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
So what else?
So parents on drugs, we have kids that are on drugs, abuse by the parents or someone else, such as scalding, bruising, shaken baby. We have children who were residing in deplorable house conditions, ones that we wouldn't want to even walk in, let alone live in. Where there's bed bugs, hoarding, no running water, no toilet facilities.
Lots of animal feces around.
Yes, I forgot about that one. Yeah. Yes. We have parents with mental illness, and a lot of times that goes along with the parents on drugs. Then we have domestic abuse in the home.
And that could be what the children are viewing. If the domestic abuse is between the adults, but the children are there and seeing it. So not just abuse on the children, but abuse that the children are having to witness and be part of.
Right. And a lot of people don't see that as child abuse because if it's not being done to the child physically, but that has a lot of effects on the children and is something that is a definite issue and concern, and those kids have a lot of issues from hearing it. Even if they're not seeing it, they hear it, which affects them as well.
A lot of long-term effects. So this affects them all the way into adulthood and all the way into relationships that they have in their future. And yes, you're right, because parents do not see how this is at all abuse to the children if they're not part of it, or they're not the ones having their hands laid on them. But yes,
Right.
just hearing it from the other room
Right.
has detrimental effects on kids.
Absolutely. We have death of parents. So if the child doesn't have any parents, if they're living with mom, we don't know where dad is, and mom dies.
And so at that point, there may not be family that have stepped up yet to come in and maybe take guardianship of the child, or maybe there's not an appropriate placement yet that's stepped up, and so we have a child with no parents, so we have to figure out what are we going to do with the child.
Right. Parents refusing to keep the child. That's always a fun one.
Yeah. That's a hard one. That's a hard one because parents have these kids or adopt these children, and then when the children have a lot of mental health issues or they have a lot of issues, the parents get very frustrated. Now, I will say that having some of the kids that I have in my home kind of taught me that not to get too frustrated with the parents all the time, because I can relate sometimes. There are times, that I think my children should go live somewhere else, all right? So, but the parents who think that and then act on that and then don't do anything about that, such as going to counseling with the children and figuring out how that they can live in the home, these are just parents that say, I don't want the children anymore. These are not the parents that are saying, I just want help for my child, or I want to figure out how my child and I can live together peacefully. We have some parents that say, I don't want the child in my home whatsoever. I want the child like in a residential facility, or I want the child with somebody else, but I don't want them in the home. So
yeah, parents in jail. That's another, whether it's from drug abuse or some other criminal offense. And I guess one of the other ones we'll chat about that's here, drug abuse, people don't think it's in Hamilton County. It is, but we also have trafficking and sex trafficking, and people don't think that that's here in Hamilton County, but actually it is, and it's very scary, and it's something that we need to be more aware of, because we're seeing, unfortunately, more cases of that.
And sometimes a lot of the sex trafficking cases bring in that the children themselves have a lot of mental health issues, and sometimes it's appropriate for the Department of Child Services to get involved in those kinds of cases to try to figure out what we can do for the children, what kind of services can we provide, and things like that. So we will come back to this after our break, but before we go, just a few reminders on how to get a hold of me. If you're interested in being an advocate here in Hamilton County, you can always call my office, 317-776-0480. You can always send me an email at attyshell@att.net and tell me that you're interested in the upcoming training, and we'll talk about that when we come back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back to the Gal for Kids show, and again we just want to thank our sponsors very quickly. Jim Wofford of the Wofford Theater, which is where we are taping, and we tape here every month, and then Logan Street Signs and Banners, which is just down the way, just down a few doors down from where we are. And we were talking a little bit about the types of cases, and we were not giving you an exhaustive list, but just an example of the types of cases that we have had to deal with within our program that the Department of Child Services have been involved in. They step in, they either remove the child or they step into the home and try to provide services in the home itself. And so we were kind of going through the list, and we didn't quite finish before break. So we have a few other things that we have seen that we could think of as far as cases. We have children. We talked a little bit about the children with mental illness because that a lot of time leads to the sex trafficking that the children are involved in. But we also have children who have molested their siblings or other people within the home, or parents or other people in the home who have molested the children that are in the home. So we've dealt with those types of cases as well. We also have had to deal with children left in the car. So if a parent wants to leave a small child in the car, then we have been involved in those kinds of cases too. So just remember the types of cases that we advocate for are cases that are brought into the court system here in Hamilton County, and there's actually a case that's opened for the child, and then the judge oversees what goes on in the case. So the judge then wants to know from the advocate, which is what we do, from the guardian ad litem or the CASA, and I think I've got those. I think Mr. Wofford puts that up as to what a GAL or a CASA means. But what the judge wants to know from us is a variety of things so that he can make a decision. And I say he because typically the judge that hears these cases, Magistrate Reitz, so I say he, not because I'm sexist, but because that's who usually hears our cases. So the judge is interested in the child's practical needs. And so some of the things the judge is looking for that we bring to the table are what?
Where does the child live? What does the house look like? What are the conditions inside? In essence, we paint a picture for him because we are his eyes as to what the child is dealing with.
So does the child have a bedroom in the home?
Right.
Does the child have a bed in the home? Now, I'm not saying every child should have their own bedroom in the home, but we would like to know at least where does the child sleep, and does the child have something proper to sleep on besides just the floor or a sleeping bag on the floor. So we are looking for things like that for the kids.
Mm-hmm. If it's clean, if there's running water, if there's food in the home.
Yes.
That's a big one. It can look all nice, but if you open a cabinet or the refrigerator and there isn't anything there, that's typically a problem.
And we do that.
Yes.
We open cabinets and refrigerators so that we can see if there is food inside the home. We don't just take people's word for it because, believe it or not, people lie. They lie to us. They lie to the Department of Child Services. So we like to see these things for ourselves. And so a lot of times we'll go in and say, we need to look in the cupboards, we need to look in the refrigerator, and we just need to make sure what's in here that the child can eat or have something to drink.
Right.
And then back on the deplorable house conditions, because sometimes when you walk in a house, we have one recently that we were talking about in the office today where bed bugs are very visible in the house. We've had cases where hoarding is an issue, and so because there's so much stuff in the house, then exit doors are blocked off by stuff. There are boxes stacked up. So it creates an unsafe environment for the child. So if there were a fire or an emergency, this child couldn't get out of certain windows or doors because in a hoarding situation, there's so much stuff in the house that the child couldn't get out. Right. And sometimes they can't even get to their bedroom. Sometimes they can't get to their bed. Sometimes things are stacked up so much in a bedroom or on a bed that there's no place for the child to sleep. So,
right. We look at how the child is dressed, and are the clothes appropriate for the time of year? Is their hair combed? Are they clean?
And on the hair, if they get infestations a lot in their hair, what's causing that? What's the root problem to that? All kinds of kids can get infestations in their hair of lice, and they can catch it from other kids at school, or they can catch it from trading a hat or a hairbrush. So we're not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with that, because any of our kids could get it. But if a child is getting this repeatedly, then what's the underlying issue inside the house that may be causing that? So we want to see the hair and hygiene issues, and we've had teachers complain sometimes about kids coming to school with dirty clothes or smelling, or obviously not having baths or showers. So we're looking at that. We're letting the judge know there's been complaints by the school, or there haven't been, or all kinds of things in that regard.
Another thing that our judge is really adamant about is smoking in the home too. If when we walk in, if it's apparent, or we walk out and our clothes smell like it, parents come into court and it's obvious that they smell like it. So the judge wants to know about that as well.
Because the judge isn't going to say, parents, you can't smoke.
Right.
Of course you can smoke, all right? But what the judge is concerned about is, are you not giving the child a choice about having to inhale secondhand smoke, and to go to school smelling like smoke, and to have their whole existence smell like something that the parents have chosen to do? If the parents choose to smoke, judge has no problem with that, but he asks for the parents not to smoke inside the car with the child or in the home with the child. He asks the parents to not do that around the child, because the child doesn't have a choice.
Right, absolutely. We look at who all lives with a child as well.
So boyfriends, aunts, uncles, girlfriends, wives, husbands, grandparents, roommates. The neighbor kids, roommates. That's right, roommates. So who all is living in that home? The judge wants to know who's there. Does anybody living in that home have a criminal background that's around these children? The judge wants to know that. What kind of criminal background do they have? Should they be around children? Are there reasons why they should not even be in this house with where the children are residing, or where the parents want the children to reside?
Right. We also look at who babysits the child. And many medical or behavioral issues that are going on in the home, or that the school is noticing, or daycare is reporting as happening. Try to see if we can figure that out, or if it's something clear, obvious when we are in the home.
And who babysits the child is sometimes important, because things happen to the child. The parents are saying, this is not happening on my watch. This didn't happen. This happened sometime after I delivered the child to daycare, or sometime after I delivered the child to the babysitter, or the babysitter came to the house. So we have various cases right now that we are dealing with within the program, where the parents are saying, there's a case involving the child, the parents are involved. There's no clear answer as to who has hurt the child. So we look at everything, who's watching this child. The parents are saying that they might have hurt this child. So that's important information for the judge to know as well. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some community services that we look at and things that we can recommend for the judge. But before we go, you can get a hold of me at 317-776-0480. And by the way, I'm Shelley Haymaker. I'm the director of the program here in Hamilton County. I always forget that. Or you can email me at attyshell@att.net. We'll see you back.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back for our final segment of the Gal for Kids show. And we would like to thank our sponsors, Mr. Wofford here of the Wofford Theater and Logan Street Signs and Banners. And yes, I look down every single time so that I can read that because I can't get it in my head right. I'm afraid I'll mess up the words. So today's show, we've just been talking a little bit about how you as a community member can get involved with what it is we do to advocate for kids. We've given you various examples of the types of cases that we have seen come through our program, and like I said, it's not an exhaustive list, it's just to give you an idea of some of the things that we deal with in our program. We've given you some examples, again, not exhaustive because the judge has lots of things he looks at, but just some examples of the things that the judge wants to know from us as the advocate for the children. And he wants us to go into these homes, and he wants us to deal with the people, and he wants us to talk to various people, various service providers, to get a good picture of what the child's circumstances are, what the child would be returning back to if the child were to go back home with the parents, and what the parents have done to fix the situation so that the parents can, or so that the kids can come back and live with the parents, and we will not have to see them again through our court system. So that's the ultimate goal of the abuse and neglect cases, is to get kids either to stay in the home and get services in the home that help right away, or to get kids back into their home with parents, because that's the best place for kids for the most part, is to be back with their parents. That's what they know, that's what they miss, that's what they want. But in those cases where parents are so addicted to drugs that they cannot stop the drugs, or they're so addicted to drugs that they are off stealing to get money to pay for their drugs, and then they get in criminal trouble and they get put in jail, or they're so addicted to drugs that they run off and we don't see them for long periods of time. On those unfortunate cases, then it is not best to necessarily put the children back with the parents, because the parents are not fixing the problem. And so then we have to look at what can we do with these kids. But in trying to fix the homes and in trying to get these kids back in with their parents, there are various services that the Department of Child Services puts into place for parents and for kids. And so we just have, again, not an exhaustive list, but an example of the various types of services that can be put in place to try to help this family.
Yes. So for families with younger children, we have First Steps, which they provide different types of therapy for children, I think, under the age of 3.
I think up
to
until
the
they
age of
turn
3,
3.
something
Right.
like that.
And First Steps isn't just for kids that are involved in our system.
Right.
First Steps is a great program out there for all sorts of kids. But it's definitely a program that we look at when we have little kids with some needs that we think that they might need speech therapy or occupational therapy or physical therapy. Then we're looking at First Steps to come in and evaluate these kids and tell us what they might need while we have them.
Right. We have drug assessments and counseling. Typically, the drug assessments are the parents, and then counseling for parents and for the children, and a lot of times therapy and counseling for both parties for reunification or to work on their issues.
And for on the drug issues as well, then they do frequent drug screens throughout the time period that we are involved in the case. And Something to keep in mind, and sometimes I think we forget, is because we get frustrated because we see a lot of these cases. When you have parents that have an addiction, whether it's to drugs, alcohol, whatever their addiction is to, addictions are hard to break. And sometimes people look at it and do not understand why the parent is choosing this addiction over their child. And that's sometimes hard for the volunteers and people from the community to understand. And it's a process. And the parents have to realize that they are in a mess, and they have to realize that they need help, and they have to actually accept the help, or they're never going to make it past this addiction. And then we're dealing with kids and trying to find them, they're trying to find another home for these kids. So drugs are such a process, and when a drug gets in your system and it's ruined some of your brain cells, and it's ruined how you think, and it's ruined how you act and behave, those are very hard cases to try to get through and get parents to understand that they need help. So it's frustrating.
Yes.
And it's frustrating to see these little kids, that are basically put by the wayside because the parents can't beat this addiction. But addictions are hard.
Yeah, and if they work on it for a few weeks and then they're back in the child's lives, and then in a few months they're back on drugs again, it's a terrible cycle. And these kids, it's just horrible to see what they're put through because of their parents' addiction. So those are always our sad and hard and frustrating ones, for that matter.
It is. So all we can say is, if you were thinking about even trying a drug, don't even think about it. Just don't even do it. Kids, community members, it may sound good at the time, but it can lead to a lot of messes that you cannot control later down the line.
Right.
All right. I'm off that drug soapbox for the moment.
Well, and just quickly on that too, we have they offer supervised visitation. It's another service that is provided that DCS can implement, and we're an advocate for that often when there's issues between the parents and the child, and something's not appropriate. So the supervisor can help redirect. We have therapeutic supervisors if counseling is needed, and sometimes we have to recommend visitations be suspended because it's causing more harm than good to these kids. And that's our job, is to advocate for them, and unfortunately
advocate for their safety and what's best for them. And we wouldn't advocate for a supervised setting or a therapeutic setting or to stop visitations if we thought that the children were being taken care of, if we thought that the children were going to be safe, if we thought the parents could provide a safe environment for the children. When the parents cannot, then we have no choice but to advocate that they see the kids, but they see the kids under a watchful eye so that nothing happens to the children while they're seeing them.
Right. I think we should tell them how to get involved next year.
All right,
because we need you.
We're just giving you a short list there because we're cutting it off because
right.
our last segment is almost done. But we do trainings. We do trainings approximately twice a year. We finished up a training, I believe, in September and October of this year. And in 2016, we are looking probably to do a training towards the end of February, 1st of March. That's always our goal. And then usually it's March to April that we end up training. I don't know why that is. But so we wouldn't have a training here right away, but we will have one coming up in early 2016. And if you know anybody who you think they would make a great advocate for kids, and they have a strong personality that can come in and say, no, this is what I would recommend for this child, then let them know how to watch our show on www.Hamilton County Television so that they can see what it is that we do and they can get more involved. So we hope you have a great Christmas and New Year's and holidays and all of the fun stuff. We hope that the weather stays nice and warm since I really don't like the cold. And we will see you come January of 2016. Have a great rest of the year.